What's up, everybody? This is Flash001 USA, and it's April 5th, 2014, around 4:30 p.m. here. Alright guys, what we're looking at is the new wood gas carburetor for my engine. Now, unlike the FEMA design that I was using, this guy's a lot less susceptible to engine vibration. So that means there's less likely of a chance that the fuel mixture will change in the middle of a run. And any of you all that's seen my past video, you understand the frustration that I went through when I was constantly tweaking on the generator. And that actually motivated me to go ahead and put this design together. And guys, I really feel that I knocked it out of the park well enough that I want to go ahead and share it with everybody. So this is what we're going to do. First thing we'll do is I'll let you get an up front close look at it so you can see exactly how it goes together and how it operates. And then I'll follow it up with an exploded view so you can see all the guts and everything inside of it and see exactly how it goes together. Now there may be some of you all out there that want to try this for yourself, so what I'm going to do near the end of the video is I'll give you all the measurements and all the part numbers for everything that you need sitting in front of you here to go ahead and try this for yourself. So on that note, let's get ready to rumble. Alright, the first thing I want to do is cover the original FEMA carburetor that I started off with. So let's take a look at this thing. On this guy right here, it's got two valves. It's got one that controls the gas coming in, the mixture of that. Then you got the top one here that controls the air mixture. Now this is what I learned with my setup. Because my filters have a little bit of back resistance, I really don't need this because I leave it wide open anyhow all the time. So this has been omitted from the new build. This guy right here is my booger. This is what causes me the problems. This thing can move a 1/16 of an inch and throw the gas out of whack. And the first 20 hours that I ran this thing when I had it built up, it wasn't an issue. Everything was nice and tight, but as I got to using it, it got loosey-goosey and there really wasn't much I could do about it. So this has to go. This is the new build. Pretty much the same thing, the same architecture, okay? Notice that I've omitted the valve here and the valve here. So I'll leave the gas coming in wide open at all times. Now the air mixture is right on top. Now for ease of the video, I've removed some parts from the inside. This way I can spin it freely with my fingers. But when this thing's together for real on the inside, this thing's tight to turn, which means it's not going to move with the engine. There's a couple things that I added to it strategically, like lock nuts, and there's one right here my finger's pointing at. This is so when it's turned all the way down, you can't turn it too far down and damage the diaphragm down here. And of course there's a lock nut up here that tightens up to hold the handle in place. And there's also a lock nut that's internal inside here, and that gives it the nice tight feeling when you're turning it on and off or adjusting the mixture. Now this thing here, it's the same thing as the other one, except for the way I'm bringing the fresh air in it. Now check this out. Pull that out, and if you notice there's a valve right here, and if I unscrew it, I'm hoping the camera will pick this up. I really like the way this came off, man. I really do. There you go. I'm opening the air up. I'm closing the air down. Keep the camera focused here. Guys, this really works good. Like I said, I felt like I knocked the ball out of the park on this. Okay, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to turn back around and I'm going to disassemble this thing for real on the table so everything will be laid out and we'll cover the parts so you can see how this thing is actually assembled. Now, of course, this guy right here is self-explanatory, isn't it? That's all glued together and that's the end of that. Oh, by the way, because I am using 1-inch pipe, that's all these are. All this is 1-inch couplers. All I do is add tape to this. Just regular old paper tape, and it fits just like a glove. It's not going to fall off. I've never had problems with it, even with the FEMA. Okay, with the FEMA carburetor, had no issues. And the good thing I like about the paper, if it does go a little loose, I put a strip of tape around it and it's done. It was a poor man's way and a simple way of doing it. I even did it to the filter here. And this thing is not going to come apart. So let's take a break here and let me come back and we'll have this thing disassembled and we shall take a look. Alright, something that I need to mention here, and that is I was telling you guys that I use 1-inch pipe for all my carburetor housings and whatnot here, and that I use this tape here kind of like a gasket to make things go together. It's nice and snug. What I forgot to mention was everything here on forward is 1 1/4 inch PVC pipe, okay? And that's why I'm able to take these pieces and physically slide them in like that. You just have to have some gasket material to build it up, and once you do that, everything fits snugly. I did the same thing with the filter too. I'm using tape here, and on this piece here, because it works perfect with this pool filter, and we'll cover that a little bit later. The best place to start on this will probably be up here at the top. So we'll start where the handle is, where the adjustment handle is. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now, as I'd mentioned, I am using lock nuts in strategic places where I've got this handle right here, for instance. I've got me a regular nut welded to this square tubing right here. And to make sure that it doesn't spin loose, once I tighten my rod up inside of it, I use a lock nut up against it, butt up against it, and tighten it up, and it keeps it in place. I've got another one right here, so this thing can't go too far down and destroy the plunger and the guts of this thing. Yeah, so in other words, it's preset to stop it. Once the air is totally shut off, that's where it stops it. Okay, let's look. The best thing to do is look at this guy right here. This is, of course, 1 1/4, and he's made to slide into a coupler. Now he's a 1 1/4 down to 1 1/2 reducer. If you notice where my finger's at, there's a lip before the threads start. That measurement right there is, I think, want to say it's 7/8 of an inch wide. And what I did was I took a regular old washer and I ground them down. I took them and spun them on a grinder until he fits perfect in there, just like a piece of a puzzle. See how that fits in? Now I've got it here backwards right now, but I just wanted to show you the concept behind this. And then what I did was I braze welded me just a regular old nut right on top of that. And you can see where I'm going with this. First thing I need to do is get him back out of here because I've got him in upside down, but I just wanted you to see what I've got there. So what this does, this piece goes here with a flat surface facing up, just like that. Now he's in there. And of course the rod screws through here, like that. I'm going to back out with the camera. Goes in this way right here. And of course this piece is shoved in here like this, all the way flush to it. And what I did, guys, is I took some different kind of PVC pipe here. It's the CPVC stuff. It's 1/2 inch, so it's smaller than the regular PVC pipe. But what I did was I made me a holder that holds my nuts like this right here. So this guy that's right here, there's a footprint inside here. You see what I did? All I did was heat him up very carefully and shoved him up inside here so that he wound up making almost like a socket. So he fits up to this guy inside of here. Okay? And then on the bottom side of this, remember me mentioning that there's a lock nut internally to make this guy here nice and tight? Well, guess what? He goes in the other side of this thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause out for a second, and I'm going to put this piece together, and we're going to take a look at it, and you'll understand exactly how it works and why it won't fall apart. Take a standby. Okay, this piece is pretty simple and straightforward, and once I give you some explanations, it'll make perfect sense to you. And before I show it to you, let me tell you what this serves right here, this piece that I'm rubbing my thumb on. This PVC pipe has two purposes. One, it's a spacer, but the most important thing it does, it's a stabilizer. This way, when this threaded rod goes down inside of the carburetor piece here, that it doesn't dance back and forth like that. It keeps it straight and true so that the plunger hits the diaphragm dead on to shut the air off. Okay, let's take a look at it and so you can see what we got here. Alright, on the top piece right here, what I did is I've got the washer that's welded to the nut. He seated into the top of the PVC pipe where I heated it up. And remember me mentioned there was a lock nut internally that made this thing nice and tight so that it wouldn't vibrate and move around? Well, he's in the bottom of it right here. So hopefully this will start making more sense to you as we go on. Now what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start partially assembling this thing piece by piece, and you'll see how it goes together. And I think it'll come together very quickly of how this thing operates. We're going to take a pause, and I'll go to the next step. Alright guys, here we are with the plunger added to the assembly, and his job is to control the air mixture going into the carburetor. So if you're turning it counterclockwise, you're making the fuel leaner because you're adding more air to it. And if you're turning it down where it's closing up the valve, then the fuel mixture is going to be richer. Now when you go to add this piece on, be sure not to screw them too far up, because what will happen is the rod will protrude to the other side, and that's a no-no. And also I've got a lock nut right here to keep everything held in place so it doesn't fall apart. Before we move on to the next step, let's look at this plunger and how I've got it put together. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. I loosened it up just for the video. We'll get this out of the way, and I'm going to zoom in on this. Okay. I did the same thing that I did with the other washer, except this guy here is an 1.25" fender washer. And I took a little nut and I welded him dead center. And on the bottom of this thing, guys, all I did is I got an old truck inner tube upstairs that I sliced rubber off of. So you got it. I cut me a rubber circle out and super glued them on there. And that makes an excellent seal on the diaphragm. So I just wanted to share that with you so you know exactly how to do this. The next step is the housing right here. And this is thin wall 1¼ inch PVC pipe. And he's 3½ inches in length, okay? I've got 8 holes drilled around it. Now mine were 1/2 inch in diameter. I could have went with 3/8 for my engine. So just be aware of that. They don't have to be quite this big, because with that many holes, plenty of air is going to be going into it. Now this is going to be self-explanatory also. Check this out. Starting to come together, makes sense. And of course you turn this down. As I was saying earlier, what happens? This shuts up to block off the air. Okay, on to the next piece of the puzzle. And this is the piece that I've been referring to as the diaphragm, or the piece that you don't want to break. And that's why you have the stop nut here, so the plunger don't go down through here and crunch it. This piece here, with the hole in the center, this is where the fresh air intake comes in to go to the engine. And this is really easy to make. I'm going to show you what I use to make it with. And for you plumbers, you know what this is. And for those of you that aren't, this is a temporary end cap for a PVC pipe. They either use it on construction or use it when they're doing repairs. And what it does, it keeps rats from crawling up into the pipe, drunks from coming over and peeing in them, and winos and stuff like that or whatnot. And just general dirt or whatnot going into their work before they finish it up and seal everything up. But there it is. All you do is draw your circle inside here to the diameter you want, cut it out, put you a center hole in it for your needs, and you're finished with it. And the beauty of this is, stuff's easy to work with and it's not going to fall apart once you get it cut. Now keep something in mind, there's a smooth side on the back of it and the other side's got the manufacturer's writing on it. Be sure to have the smooth side facing where the plunger goes on it, okay? Now this is the easy part also, because all he does is we got our next 1¼ inch coupler, and he goes in like this, guys. Because he's a 1¼ inch diameter diaphragm, he fits in there perfect, just like the pipe. You don't want to glue any of this stuff. Do not glue any of it together. I cannot stress that enough. So there it is. Now, we're about there. We're about finished, guys. So here's how this goes together. Now we got the cheap pool filter. This is the Walmart special. And I think they call this filter A. I think it's what they call it. They got them like A, B, C, D for different lengths, but they're all the same diameter. And I may as well give you this measurement on this right now. For filter A, they're, let's see here, 3¾ inches in length. Yeah, that's about right. And of course, they're about 4¼ inches wide. Sorry about that. I have to keep pulling over to the camera because I'm at an angle with this, guys. Now, the hole itself in here is just a little bit too big, so I do the same thing with the tape, the little tape trick. Okay, that's the way it makes it where it fits up in here. What I do is this number right here. Push him in here, and I'll dance him up in here to where I think he needs to be. And then this piece right here, guys, goes in like this. And it is together. That's the heart of it. That's the meat and potatoes of this carburetor right there. And of course this piece here fits on to this piece. Now the only thing that you need to know now is how to center that plunger up, because when you're putting this thing together and you're making it permanent, you don't want that plunger offset here, so it's got to be straight on. And I may as well show you this real quick, so just bear with me. Now, aligning the plunger is a pretty simple task, but it's also critical that you get it right the first time, because once that epoxy hardens, if you don't have it correct, all the work you did goes right out the window, guys. Now, this starts with using the correct plastic weld or epoxy resins. Now, what I've got right here is JB Weld, and this plastic weld. This handles exactly what we're working with. It handles the PVC pipe and the CPVC, which is the tiny pipe right here. Okay, before you put the first bit of epoxy on this thing, clean all of your work with either acetone or the pipe cleaning stuff they have, or even use 91% alcohol, but get all your finger grease off of it. Get it bone dry. You don't want anything in there that will impair your weld when you do this, okay? Now once you get all that done and prepped up, you pack this thing right here on the inside lip here. You pack it full of the JB weld or the plastic weld, whatever you're going to use. Even mound it just a tiny little bit, and you make sure that it's in there. Now you'll have a few minutes to work with it before it hardens. So this is what you're going to do. Once you get it in there and you know, hey look, there's no air bubbles and what you've done is right, you turn back around and start assembling it. So you do this. And of course we get this guy right here, put him on because this is what you're going to be using as a guide. Let me put him on the table, put him in place. Okay. Now, as you can see, the plunger is offset. So what I would do is move him, get him centered, and use you some tiny wood wedges and go around this thing and make sure that you have everything centered. Once you do that, it is a done deal. And if you want to be really sure about it, there's another way you can do it. You can turn back around and put this piece on if you want to, while the stuff is still hardening. And let me mash him in place. Make sure he's got him on there right. Yep. Okay. And you can turn back around, guys. You'll have to make sure that he doesn't free spin in there, okay? So if you do the job right on this thing, it won't free spin. You can turn back around and screw him down like this. And feel the plunger with your finger. Now make sure that you have this screw here on the part right up here so that it can absolutely butt up against the diaphragm. You can turn back around and do it like that right there. And I move my finger, and now that's dead center because it has to be, because it's laid on there. And you can actually blow air into it and see if you got a seal. And you're not going to get like a water spigot seal on this thing. You're going to have a little bit of leakage. But keep in mind that you just want to cut the majority of air off coming out of this. So if it's got some, miniature leaks on it or micro leaks on it, that ain't no problem with this thing. But you do that, you let it set up for about 12 hours, let it harden up, and once you do that, now you've got a real wood gas carburetor. And I'm going to tell you right now, I got a feeling that this thing here will rival a lot of the stuff that people build out there for small engines. And as I said, I've only got one control valve on it. And that's because my air filters that I have on my system, they do have a little bit of back resistance. But if you've got a small system and your gasifier breathes too easily, you can always turn back around and go ahead and invest into I don't know, either a brass pipe or even one of those PVC ball valves, okay? And put it on your input of your gas somewhere just so you can choke it back. So there's always a workaround for it because in reality, guys, this is the heart of the system right here. That's the meat and potatoes. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, contact me, leave something on the blog. And like I said, I will help anybody out any way I can.